G'day everyone, Lucas here from Aussie Gamers Express, and today I am taking a look at a BENQ monitor. I've got it here to my left. It is still in the box. It's the EL2870U. It is an LED backlit monitor. Now, it's a pretty impressive thing from what I've heard. Now, this monitor advertises itself as a premium gaming experience without the premium price tag. Now, what I would really like to know is what exactly are you sacrificing to get that price tag down so low? It does have quite a few features included here, which are some on the box here, like HDR. It's UHD 4K, 1 millisecond response rate. We've also got low blue light, as well as AMD's FreeSync technology included. So a lot of cool stuff in there, so it's going to be interesting to find out what you do miss out on. Okay, before we get this thing unboxed and start getting my fingerprints all over the thing, I just want to say a quick thank you to BENQ for sending this monitor out for me to have a bit of a review of. But I also want to suggest that this video is not sponsored, not even by the Dollar Shave Club. There are no agreements gone into whatsoever for any particular favourable opinions or anything like that. The opinions that you're going to get of this monitor are going to be mine and mine alone through me actually using it. So let's get started. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be comparing the BENQ EL2870U with the ACER CB281HK monitor. Now, they're very similarly priced monitors. They're exactly the same size and have similar specs as well. The ACER is $599 Australian as a retail price, and the BENQ is $569 Australian. So they're very similar there, but let's see how they perform. Now, I've put up the specs for both of these monitors up on the screen side by side, and if you just have a quick glance at them, you'll think that, well, most of them are exactly the same, and you're right there. Now, I'll just quickly go through them. Both of these monitors are 28-inch 3840 by 2160 UHD or 4K monitors. They both boast a response time of 1 millisecond, which I will go into a little bit more detail later in this video, because not all response times are created equally as it would seem. They both have the same aspect ratio and viewing angles, and they're both LED backlit. Both panel types are TN or twisted pneumatic film, and this is where we start to see some differences. The max adjustable height of the ACER is 150 millimeters, while the BENQ doesn't have any height adjustment whatsoever. The ACER monitor will also swivel from side to side as well as tilt, whereas the BENQ monitor will only tilt forward and backwards. Both of these monitors have a refresh rate of 60 Hz, which means that they can both display up to 60 frames per second. Both of their display colors are at 1.07 billion colors, which is exactly the same, and their brightness also the same at 300. Now, with the speakers, they both have the exact same specs, 2x2 watt speakers. Now, even though the specs are exactly the same, they may not perform the same. Here's an example of what they sound like.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for a Who the Said That. Now, this week I'm going to be a little bit cheeky because I've slightly modified it to not give it away straight off. Does that sound alright to you? Interesting. Tell me, what are you really scared of? Failing to save this cesspool of a city? Not finding him in time? Me? In a thong? Who said that?
It feels notable. I should know this one. I'm drawing blanks.
Drawing blanks. All right, well, listen in for the end of the show, everyone. I'll say it in full at the end.
Well, there you go. So that's an example of both of the speakers playing the Aussie Games Express podcast, and I've got to say that both of them, their speakers are rubbish. However, the BENQ is obviously a little bit clearer, has a little bit more bass to it, whereas the ACER is absolutely horrible for speakers. Now, it's not a big deal. I never use monitor speakers. I don't even actually expect them to have speakers in them. So the fact that they actually do have speakers is pretty damn neat. But if you want one based on the speakers, the BENQ has a much better set of speakers in them. Alright, so another point of difference here is the interfaces. The ACER has a DVI, a HDMI and a display port, whereas the BENQ has DVI, 2 times HDMI and display port. So it's nice to have those extra ports, and the BENQ has 1 extra HDMI, which is nice. Now this next one I found a little bit interesting because the ACER has a 2-star power rating while the BENQ has a 4-star power rating. A little bit strange because when you look at the actual specifications, the ACER states that it uses 41.5 watts, while the specifications for the BENQ says that it uses less than 55 watts. So it's not exactly that accurate, but if you go by the star rating, the BENQ has a bit more energy efficiency to it, and the ACER, not so good. Alright, coming up to the last few things on the list here, they both have a VESA mount setting on the back 100 by 100 pattern. The ACER will weigh 5.1 kilograms, while the BENQ is slightly heavier at 5.7 kilograms. The ACER does not have HDR, while the BENQ does have HDR10, and also the BENQ has AMD FreeSync, while the ACER does not. AMD FreeSync, while it is a good feature to have, is only good if you're running AMD graphics cards in your computer. Alright, so going back to the 1 millisecond response time, this footage I have here is recorded at 240 frames per second. So we're going to slow it down a little bit so we can see exactly how it works side by side. We've got the ACER on the left and the BENQ on the right. So here we go, we'll slow this down. And the biggest tell is when we change scenes. You're not going to see too much in this kind of a comparison, but when the scene changes to a different, say, camera angle, as you just see there, the ACER on the left lags behind by about a frame or half a frame. Now that is, I don't know, it's a little bit strange considering they both boast the 1 millisecond response time, but I feel like the BENQ is a little bit more responsive. Now we'll see another example here very shortly in the real-time slow motion, and then I'll get a screen grab and we'll have a look at that. So you can see it there, the ACER on the left, you can slightly see that it is lagging on the frame. Now let's have a look at a freeze frame. Okay, so this should become extremely obvious now what I'm talking about. So we're going to look at a couple of frames in succession. Here's one frame, and the following frame, the BENQ on the right has completely changed scenes, while on the left it still hadn't changed, and now on the next frame the ACER has caught up. So it's about a frame behind. Alright, so let's sum up here. What have we seen? The BENQ basically has a couple of extra things like HDR, better speakers, and a better response rate than the ACER. However, the ACER is a little bit cheaper, has better adjustability for the actual monitor, whereas the BENQ doesn't really adjust much at all. For me, I do prefer the BENQ now that I've had a chance to try it out, but the ACER is actually a really capable monitor itself. If you want something that's going to be a little bit more user-friendly and adjustable on your desk, definitely the ACER has a better stand. But it's something if you're looking at adding one of those VESA mounts and you're going to hook it up and connect it to your desk or your wall or whatever, then I guess that's not a massive issue at all. Now, as for the actual visual quality, it's not something that you can show very well through a video, considering, you know, there's compression and, you know, you lose a little bit of quality through that. From my eyes themselves, they do look very similar in video quality. The colors do slightly, ever so slightly differ, but that could have something to do with the actual settings themselves, because you can change brightness, you can change contrast, saturation, things like that. So it's never going to be exactly the same. Now, final words, I guess if I was going to pick one of these myself, I would probably, well, the first thing that would come off my mind would be the BENQ. The only thing is, for a multi-monitor setup without using any sort of mounts and only using the one that comes in the box, the ACER is so much better for leveling them and getting them to line up perfectly, because there's that much adjustability in the mounts. The BENQ is a bit disappointing because it doesn't really move. It just has that tilt, which is not really that useful. But performance-wise, I think the BENQ is better. It has the better response rate. It actually feels like it's giving you that 1 millisecond response time, which is important when you're playing games and you want to be number one. Not so important for me because I can't win anyway. But anyway, thank you very much everybody for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to come back and see more from me in Aussie Games Express, click that subscribe button, and why not, go on, press that notification button and become part of our notification squad. That's all for me. Thank you very much once again, and until next time, I am Lucas, and I will see ya.